Hello, welcome to this week's Back to the City. I'm Simon Calder, and today I'm very happy to be joined by my friend Shannon BLOWTORCH. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you.
We're having a good year so far. We spent it together at the VFW, the transition from last year into this year, and it was your first event back DJing again. Let's begin by turning to that moment. You had Izzy P involved, for example, FNK, lots of people that you've collaborated with many times before. Could you share a little bit about how your year began with that event? And you have multiple residencies now, which are the main thing we'll be highlighting throughout the episode. You predicted that 2024, this is back in December 15th, 2024 feels like a start of a new chapter in my life in a way I didn't see coming and have always wanted. That phrase just really struck me. You didn't see it coming at this particular moment, and it's the future that you'd always wanted. Any immediate reflections on either that New Year's Eve experience at the VFW and or the new residencies and or this new chapter?
My life, personal life has taken a lot of changes. It's funny because I grew up on the streets. I've been on my own since I was 15. And in and out of shelter cares, foster homes, the system, like all that good stuff.
Yeah, I was reading an excellent article that you and Dara Maskowitz Grundal, it must have been just as the pandemic was hitting.
Right before the pandemic. We did it at the Coven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was some real shit.
The subtitle said Shannon BLOWTORCH has overcome hardship, bigotry, and misogyny to dominate Minneapolis nightlife. What comes next? ? And of course, the pandemic comes. I already highlighted. I was with you on New Year's Eve. I was working the door. Only after the pandemic have I worked any jobs in that industry. I gather it was quite different before. So maybe that's something else that we'll touch upon. But
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I was reading in that piece. You shared a lot of details about your childhood and discovering a foster care community at Stevens Point. Stevens Point in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I got emancipated, and I got emancipated at 17, and then I was in Stevens Point at that time. I bounced everywhere. But yeah, coming from the streets, like some of the youth workers and the social workers or the shelter care staff, like so a lot of them were really shitty, and some of them made a huge impact on my life, where if I hit the lottery tomorrow or got rich tomorrow, I'd find my old social worker and go pay off all her debt and buy her house and just give it to her or her kids or whatever, her family. Like that woman made an impact, and I'll never forget that. So I also went into youth work for a while, working with street kids. Because I may not understand what particular struggle they're going through, but I get it. I get some aspects of it, you know. My struggle can relate in some aspects to theirs, right?
And you are there for people, artists in the community all the time. So again, recently you made multiple posts about Nanobyte's laptop, for example, making sure that a DJ needs equipment to be able to do that good work. Nanobyte's a favorite DJ of mine too.
Oh, I love Robert. I ended up actually cleaning up my old DJ laptop and having a computer scientist clean it up and spice it up, and I ended up giving that to him.
Gifting.
Gifting him a MacBook Pro.
Wow.
So that he could work. So, I mean.
Case in point. And Miles, FNK, again in the run-up to that New Year's Eve show, posted that throughout some of the most vulnerable years of my life, there's one woman that's made sure I have rent, groceries, and purpose. And that is you. And the thing that really struck me there, actually, is that Miles was sharing that from 2016 up until 2020 again, you would be reaching out to Miles to have Miles as FNK DJ or make live art, glitch art during the set. Miles shared that he would receive raises from you if every 6 months or so, and that was actually better than any warehouse or office that Miles had worked for. Sophia Eris, too, she's made lots of public statements about how you played such a large role in kind of teaching her many of the skills that she has. So this is something that you clearly, without having won the lottery, you are a very giving person.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I had people like go out of their way to help me when I was down and out and on the streets, and never had anybody to rely on, and community has always come through. So kind of feel the same. And in the DJ world, it's pretty toxic and masculine, and like,
It is.
yeah, whatever I could do to help change that and turn it on its ass, I'm going to.
Yeah.
So
I also, when I was doing the research looking at Girl Party, I came across Lizzo sharing guidance that you had given in terms of sound. Could you expand a bit more on that?
yeah, Girl Party hit me up when I was in Paris. They were looking for a DJ. They hit me up when I was in Paris, and I'm like, well, I'm out of the country right now, but when I get back, you know.
Did you? So obviously you're very good friends and family with Sophia Eris, chosen family. At that stage, when they were looking for a DJ and hit you up, were you already?
I didn't know them.
You didn't know them?
No, I've done sound for them before.
Right.
Because I was a sound engineer as well, and I've done sound for them, and I was like, wow, what a shit show. They don't know mic control. These girls are so talented. They don't know mic control, and they're really
So for the Chalice,
difficult.
for example, did you run sound for the Chalice or?
Yeah, I did sound for the Chalice once, and then for Dre Day, which they all came in and did some stuff for Dre
And
Day.
you curated that for some time, Dre Day.
Yeah, and that was right before I started curating it. That was like a year or two before it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the. I didn't really want to be a DJ for a crew, and so when they hit me up, I was like, I'll think about it. Like when I get back to the country, I'll hit you up and we can all have a meeting. And we did, and I was like, well, here's the deal. Us sound engineers all talk, and you're really hard to do sound for. Like, will you take constructive criticism and feedback, and will you learn? Because if I'm involved, like, that's gonna hurt my brain. Like, especially when it comes to sound. Because I'm picky. I want everybody to look good, and they're women. They have to work harder.
Right.
Like, unfortunately, that's the way shit is. You have to work doubly as hard.
And sadly, it can't be taken as a given that the sound person is necessarily going to be trying
Or give a shit.
to make the.
A lot of those folks are jaded. And they, yeah. So they were all like, hell yes, like, yeah, we'll listen, like, teach us, and they all listen. So yeah, we all got wireless mics immediately. Taught them how to talk to monitor engineers and how to deal with all the mansplaining from sound engineers, which is always a thing. Yeah, they all listen. They kick ass, all of them.
Absolutely. I was reading about when the final set at Rock the Garden. Ahead of that, you were saying that becoming family with all of these ladies and ongoing family with all of these ladies was what had been the highlights for you. When Girl Party first started, there was a 6-month residency at Ice House. Sophia Eris, looking back at that, would share that watching it grow and grow and having a show full of women each month, I'm really proud of that. So maybe because we found ourselves focusing on that period of time, let's zoom in on that. What thoughts did you have, again, in this certainly pre-2020 context, but perhaps particularly that Ice House residency and the feeling of growth, working with those women? What memories and thoughts do you have about that time and the excitement of fostering that community and providing people with this thing?
I mean, the first memory that comes to my head is looking out at that crowd and seeing just a room full of femmes and thems and just like feeling empowered, and they took over the space and they ran it. And that to me is beautiful.
Yeah.
So you're not just looking around, it's a bunch of bros or a bunch of dudes. It's not them. They're not running the space tonight. And so looking out and seeing a sea of all these beautiful folks and just that positive energy, like very empathic, so you can feel that.
One can. Yeah. How does Powerpuff feel now? So that's
Powerpuff is great.
Yeah, absolutely, because that is of course is at Ice House also. Again, we're not pre-2020, and I haven't been able because I running the doors when
You're
it's
working.
happening. But I gather that something of the same vibe is there.
Yeah, I think we're a little more queer focused for Powerpuff, and just having that space for queer folks to come and dance.
Yep, Powerpuff Queer Dance Party at Ice House every first Saturday of the month.
Yep, for Saturdays.
And is it always you and the same? So yeah, so it's you, Queen
Dwayne.
Yep, and Izzy P.
And then we have dancers. Generally, like we've had Blizzo, Worry. We've had different dancers from the Vogue Down Collective. And they're just like this young, talented, so talented, but amazing dancers. So they come in and they kind of curate a vibe on stage.
Yes.
And it's just beautiful.
I love that feature. That's a feature of Decadence too. And
I love that.
Yeah, me too. And I bring it up because you were the most recent
The music selector.
Music selector, yeah. Both for that set and the New Year's Eve set, I was trying, whilst doing the various tasks of my job, to think about your set and like catch, okay, what's happening as Shannon's playing and on this occasion. So on the one occasion, of course, it's New Year's Eve. You're playing to a different crowd, and there's a different. Then it's its own thing.
Different vibe.
But then for Decadence, also I was conscious that you had posted just before that you were excited to play some music that you wouldn't normally have the opportunity to. It strikes me that the live dances that they have there, that's a component that's the same. I think it's really good to like set a tone, and I think I've witnessed more people dancing when we have the live dancers kind of demonstrating this is a dance night.
It gives people permission to let loose or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Dancers, I think, are very important, and I don't think they get enough credit.
Absolutely, I think so too. Yeah, and Vivian, of course, is both one of the dancers.
Palm Butter.
And Palm Butter, yeah, exactly.
Who also played my New Year's Eve party.
Absolutely. Yeah, Fiona and I were really excited. Palm Butter is one of their favorite DJs too. So for that Decadence set, I was able to catch. You played some Tiana Taylor, WTP Tiana Taylor, and then that went into Kim Petras. You were excited to play some more. I can't find the particular.
Housey, EDM,
yeah, exactly,
techno-y.
Yeah.
I can't stick to one genre. It's impossible for me.
And I also was listening back to some of on your website, I found some playlists. I think they might have been sets from the current show. And
all that stuff's so old.
Yeah, but it's so. What I noticed as I was looking through some of those old playlists of yours is it's so eclectic, isn't it? And each of the sets would be coherent. So there would be one where like Falls, which is a Oxford-based band that I remember reading about them in the NME when they weren't signed, and then I just reached out to them to ask if they wanted to come and play at a club in Cambridge, in England, which is where I was running some events. And they said they did want to, but then they got signed to Transgressive, and part of their sign-up deal was that they would play a Transgressive Warehouse event on the same night. So they wrote back and said, "Oh, sorry, Simon, we're signing to Transgressive, so we can't play the event." And I was like, "What?" That's cool. That's
but cool.
Well, they were like, "We would like to come back and do it for you some other time." And then I ran into Yanni in Oxford, a few months later, and he was like, "Oh, Simon." He recognized me, and he was, "Simon, we need to get around to doing that event." But then, still a few months after that, they just blew up.
Mm-hmm.
but Falls, I love Falls. And then on that mixtape though is Fantagram, Pixies, Mannequin Pussy, and then there was another one that was all new. It was called New Disco, and just it's so eclectic. Is that partly now you have your 3 residencies, and we've already named one, the Powerpuff every first Saturday at Ice House, every first Friday at Zora Darling. There's Y2K, and then every second Saturday at Mortimer's, you and Sophia Eris have Pussy Control.
Yep. She also does Y2K with me too.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we have so much fun DJing together.
Yeah.
That it's like we just really, and we worked together last night too. Doing Thursdays at Zara Darling, we're doing a pool party.
Pool party. Yeah, exactly. Couples pool competition. And in that instance, Sophia is like...
She's running the pool tables.
Yeah, she's hosting.
She's like hosting the pool tables. I saw her playing too, though. But yeah, it got way busier than we expected. Yeah, it was packed last night.
So given how eclectic you are, could you expand a little bit on, again, with this being like the new chapter, and your doctors advised you not to do any DJing for 6 months, and to rest as much as possible to get the core strength back. Obviously, there's a lot of carrying heavy gear around and
Still working on
standing
it.
without breaks. Yes, exactly. Yes, but you're back, and you have these 3 residencies. Given how eclectic your musical taste is, could you expand a bit on what it means to you to have the 3 different residencies and then provide different outlets?
I mean, this is all I do to pay my bills. It's I do parties, I DJ, I do private parties, corporate events, weddings, whatever. I can literally play to any crowd. I feel like the Y2K obviously is all 2000s music. Anything from 2000 to 2009. So like, I got that shit on lockdown. I can do that in my sleep. But also, there's so much good music in that decade that it's like you also have to read the crowd still and see and be like, are they into some of the more poppy shit, or they want some more rap, or they want some more like lower tempo stuff, a little more R&B-ish. Like, still got to read them because as much as you might hear some of the jams each month, it still is different every month. Like, it depends on the crowd.
Yeah, which is key to you're a professional party thrower. It's one of the things that you are, and you're a pro in large part because of the ability to. You were saying about being an empath to know what the energy is and to feed that, and also, of course, to exercising your boundaries very well. Like people. I saw a post of yours where there's one guy wanting "My Heart Will Go On."
Celine Dion in the middle of a fucking Latin set.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here. He's like, it'll be funny. No, bro, it won't. Like, do you see all these women dancing? No, I cater to them, not you.
Absolutely.
Take your $5 back before I fucking rip it up and it at you.
Right. And just that entitlement to, if I understand correctly, this man was just insisting, just play the song.
He got aggressive.
Right.
Just fucking play it. I'm like,
I gave you my $5. Like,
I shut the music off on him like a few times. No.
Yeah. So,
like,
to draw attention to, like, everyone in the room is aware, because it's so disrespectful, isn't it?
His friends were embarrassed, and his friends were fans. And I'm like, I kept telling his friends, I'm like, you are not responsible for his behavior. You two are great. I've seen you before. You're lovely people. I'm sorry your friend's being a douchebag. I don't tolerate it. Like, you can't speak to a fucking woman like that. Not the way he spoke to me. He was very aggressive and very, like, puffy.
Right.
I will not fucking tolerate it. I won't tolerate that to anybody in the room. Like, if he did that to another woman in the room, fuck no. I would shut the music off and have that woman's back. Like, I've done that a million times too. Like, you just, yeah, no, bro.
And that's something else that, so as well as curating in terms of the art and the music, making decisions such as, will there be dancers, who will the dancers be, to, on top of all of that, have to then deal with that guy and a bunch of guys like that behaving in analogous bad ways.
So used to it.
Yeah.
I'm so used to it since I started in my career. It's always been there. It's never gone away. I want to say it will, but I doubt it. Like, it'll always be there. It's just hold your ground. You know, show your boundaries, and I just won't tolerate it. I don't care. Fire me.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. So, yeah, the venue had my back though, so not too worried about it.
Yeah. What made me think of it in that moment is because we were emphasizing being empathetic, being able to read and respond to the crowd, but then also knowing when to hold one's ground, and rather than like pleasantly respond, assertively clarify, this is not okay to treat me or any woman in this way.
I do want to state I was nice to him at first.
Yes.
I was very nice to him at first and polite until it was time not to be polite anymore.
Until essentially, just reading the post, it seemed like the moment was he thought that by giving you a nice big $5 tip, then he was entitled to have you serve him.
And I gave him his money back.
Right.
Here you go, sir. You keep your $5. And I also want to point out that this is a venue where I do get tips, and this is a venue where, like, me getting a $100 tip is normal.
Right.
Like, come on, bro. You want me to play Celine Dion in the middle of a Latin set? $5 and go do it. And if I wanted to be a funny jackass like that while I'm DJing, I will do it on my own accord.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've done it.
You've got a better sense of humor than that.
Yeah, like, I can do something
pull
like that and pull it off, and it would be hilarious.
Yes.
But, like, it wasn't the moment. It wasn't the time, and these women were, like, had just got up and started dancing, and I'm like, I'm going to let them vibe. Like, I don't want to ruin their energy and their vibe. They're all, like, dancing together and having fun. Like, let them have fun. Why ruin it? Why fuck with them?
Right.
Like, it just wasn't the time. And I will pull jokes as a DJ, but that wasn't the moment.
Absolutely. A mutual friend of ours came up as we were like setting up Venus de Mars. In fact, you refer to Venus as a mentor, and Venus has been there for me in all kinds of ways during my time in Minneapolis. When the pandemic first hit, and I was strangely I was planning on having a 2-month visit to my parents, who I'd barely seen for years, but international flights were being cancelled, and my job teaching at the university, that particular job had come to an end. I was going to take a break, come back, do something different. But my health insurance was tied to that job that was ending. So I almost got stuck in a foreign country, for me, the States, with, for the first time, no health insurance, right as the pandemic was hitting. And Venus is the person that came to the rescue and like drove me to the airport and helped me get my stuff in storage using Venus's big vehicle.
The kitty van.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So we have wonderful experiences of Venus, as others have had wonderful experiences of you as a mentor and a friend. And I saw a post of Venus's the other day regarding the bass and CBGBs. So that was back in
2000 something. 2000.
Maybe 2004.
Yeah,
Yep,
somewhere around there.
Saturday, February 21st, Venus de Mars and all the Pretty Horses. We're playing Transmania, was the name of the event. Lisa Friday's Transmania.
Oh, Lisa Jackson.
Yeah, Lisa Jackson and Girl Fridays was one of the acts on the bill. Venus de Mars and all the Pretty Horses headlining. You would tour with Venus and help with with the booking.
I was Venus taught me how to book, manage, and do PR, and I did that for all the Pretty Horses for a good amount of years. And I was a dancer. All that metal grinding and that underwear shit, I brought that to the band.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew that you were participating in it, but you brought it to the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I used to, we dumpstered a bunch of metal, some dumpster near Hidden Beach, and then I built metal underwear with a welder buddy of mine at Intermediate Arts, using their equipment, and we built these crazy metal underwear, and then Venus would take the angle grinder to my crotch, and sparks would fly everywhere, and then we started building Venus metal pieces, and then we'd grind each other on stage, and she still does it.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it many a time, and I knew that you were involved, but I didn't know that you brought it to the band. It's amazing. Did your experience with Venus de Mars and all the Pretty Horses in general, in what ways has that informed what you do as a professional party thrower? Because being taught how to do booking by Venus so that the Venus sound can take some stuff off Venus's plate because it's so much that one needs to juggle. What role has that played?
I mean, everything.
Yeah,
that was my real start. I was a sex worker when I met Venus.
Yeah.
So I had time to do this shit.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things, I mean, besides the actual logistical day-to-day operation, which obviously is priceless knowledge, but one of the biggest things that I can think of that I took from Venus is ethics and how to be ethical and authentic while you're doing it. And how you're gonna run into slimy motherfuckers in this business and just like, nope, you stick to your fucking ethics. Venus never backed down from being a good person and being ethical.
Yeah.
And just, that's like off the cuff, the biggest thing I took from Venus, like a takeaway.
Yeah.
Just like she never backed down. She never backed down from her values.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there have been moments, I mean, where she's given them many opportunities because it was not ethical or not right,
because of prioritizing remaining in integrity.
Yeah, or leaving a show because of A, B, and C, because that's not fucking right. I'm not playing that fucking show. So that was a huge takeaway.
There is show.
She's just I just want to say she's an amazing human being. One of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. And we're all lucky to have Venus de Mars.
If at one end of the spectrum there are shows like the kind of shows that one decides not to do for A, B, and C, I gather that particular event where Eden axe chops the bass at the end of the show, and then you help finish the job, and then you end up keeping the bass bits, and then just a few weeks ago, one Sunday, you bring them to Venus, and now they are at the Minnesota
Historical
MUMA?
Society or something?
Yeah, Minnesota.
They're where they should be.
Yeah, they're where they should be, essentially. MUMA is the acronym. What Venus had to say there, the key thing that Venus had to say in that post, is that more than simply an instrument being destroyed on stage during a punk show kind of a thing, there are a lot of layers to what all unfolded that night and weekend. It seems like at the complete opposite end of the spectrum to the kind of show that you say no to because of A, B, and C. This is the kind of show that is important and transformative. Do you have anything to share about either that particular show or that time, and maybe it's analogous in some ways, similar, looking out into the crowd, to what you were saying about the Ice House residency with Girl Party, looking out and seeing, yes, this is something that one wants to be involved in fostering and participating in. What thoughts do you have about that period of time?
I mean, I was just excited. I broke a fucking bass guitar on stage at CBGB's. Like, I'll never be able to do that again.
Absolutely.
Like, and I'm never gonna be able to break a bass guitar like that again, because Eden like jumped on it. It's still all in one piece, and I'm like, you just bowed your bass. It's toast. And she couldn't break it.
Of course. Yeah.
So I'm like, let me help you, girl. Yeah, and I smashed that thing. The strings are what held the pieces together, because the strings didn't come unraveled. But that's what actually held all the pieces together.
So that made it
They were
possible.
smashed.
That made it possible for you to collect all the pieces.
Yeah, except for one piece. Somebody like they were like the crowd was fighting over pieces, and I fucking I didn't give a fuck. I just took it from them.
Yeah.
Like, nah, this is mine now.
Yeah, which I think is kind of, again, indicative of the same ethos that we've been talking about throughout, that you kind of connected to Venus a moment ago. The ability to stand one's ground and to be like, okay, yes, on the one hand, this is a kind of exciting, chaotic moment, and this is really meaningful. This guitar does belong to Eden, and it would mean a lot to not lose all of these pieces, and for that to be what is going through your mind in that moment.
Well, and when we were in New York, I felt like people treated us like some fucking peons from the Midwest, as they did. I mean, I remember being introduced by, what's his name? I think he started the whole homocore New York, Dean something, I forget. He introduced us on stage. We were playing with Jane County. He's just like, they're from Minnesota, like, feel sorry for them. Like, I'm like, excuse me? Nah. I'm sorry we have affordable fucking rent. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm proud to fucking live in Minneapolis. Like, I don't want to live in New York.
Yes, me too.
So,
I certainly choose to.
But, like, people would treat us like that. I've had bookers, like, totally fuck with me in New York. Yeah. So, not everybody took us very serious. And it felt like, I don't know, it turned me into a bulldog with the horses, and very protective over them, and especially Venus. Like, you're gonna take her for a ride? No, I'm like her guard dog. Nope. So, yeah, New York it was an interesting time, especially in that punk scene that we were heavily involved in.
What's your sense of what Venus had in mind when Venus was posting about there being layers of what unfolded that night?
I'm just gonna say, y'all gotta read Venus's memoirs when it's out.
Yes,
I'm not gonna disclose anything.
Absolutely.
I know everything that happened. It'll be in Venus's memoirs.
Nice.
I'm gonna leave that for her to tell.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one for Venus.
Yeah, exactly. That's the respect in practice again. Well, let's focus on Pussy Control a little bit more, because that is the newest residency, brand new this year at Mortimer's. Again, it is second Saturday of each month, and that's you and Sophia Eris. You're going to hear current bangers, old school throwbacks, party jams, and more.
Basically, whatever the fuck we want to play.
Yeah, Pussy Control is probably my favorite Prince song. How did the two of you land on that as a title?
That was Sophia's idea. Yeah, I was like, I told her I've been waiting for a long time for something to open up at Mortimer's for a residency, and it did, and I'd love to do one with you. And so we just kept talking about it. We'd go shoot pool and just like bounce ideas off each other. And we have a little group of people we shoot pool with like once a week.
Nice.
And she came up with it, and then it has the very unique spelling to it as well. Because I was like, man, it's gonna hit the algorithms, and none of our ads are gonna work. And Sophia's like, no, we'll figure this out. And then she did the cool spelling of it.
Yeah.
And Sophia is very much so an idea woman. So she has amazing concepts and ideas.
So we're a couple of months into you and her having those two residencies. What are some of the key differences, would you say, between Pussy Control and Y2K?
I mean, Y2K is the decade. Pussy, you gotta stick within that. And Pussy Control is probably more of what we like coming out. Not that we don't like Y2K, but I don't know, did Megan just come out with a new song? We're gonna play that immediately, or I think our personalities come out in that one, because there's no boundaries on what we want to play.
Megan is in Megan Thee Stallion.
Megan Thee Stallion, just as an example.
Yeah, Kitty Cat is. I listen to that song so often. I think I first heard it in one of your DJ sets at Hot Dish, which would be months to months like my highlight in my door guy capacity. It was always fun to watch that particular event, and I'm almost certain that my first time hearing Kitty Cat was in your set, and I was just catching some of the lyrics and putting them into. I didn't have Shazam. I have to figure out what this song is so that I can carry it with me and enjoy it in other contexts.
I mean, and here's the difference with a Decadence show. At Decadence, I get to play a bunch of shit I never get to play. And me saying that is like, that's not the shit that pays my mortgage, right? Because a bunch of people came up to me and they're like, I've never heard you play like that before. And I'm like, I don't get to. Like, that's not paying for my bills. Like, paying for my bills is like, you know, the Pussy Controls and the Y2Ks and stuff like that.
But with Decadence, you've been...
That was a gig for the soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Nice. That night was my favorite night of working the door in a very long time. Because
everyone killed it.
Yeah,
everyone
it's
played great sets
as well. Like all of the the Untethered and all of the people involved in that. They're so good-hearted. They're very intentional about the community that is being formed. I'm sure they were excited for you to just do what you wanted to do under their umbrella, and to. Because it is your job to be a DJ otherwise, and it's it. Like I think a gig for the soul. I know exactly what you mean, and it did come across like that.
I tell all the youngins I work with or people that I'm helping out, I'm like, you know, make your money. Like you gotta figure out: are you gonna like pay your bills being a DJ, or are you trying to just do it because it's your craft and you just want to have fun doing it, or are you trying to do both? Like there's also a fine balance. You can't only do gigs to pay your bills. If you do that, you're just going to burn out. You have to have gigs for the soul. If you don't have gigs for the soul, you're going to forget why you're doing it in the first place.
Absolutely.
So you have to refill your cup there. So yeah, Decadence was a fun one.
Oh, I saw somewhere in a bio that you'd toured with CSS.
With who?
CSS.
Oh yeah.
I love CSS.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Yeah, I toured with CSS, I've toured with Peaches, Gossip, Men. I did sound for J.D. Sampson from La Tigra for Men. Wow. I did sound for Men for years touring.
Yeah. Oh, so you were doing sound. You were the sound engineer for each of those acts.
I am a sound engineer.
Of course. Yes.
At heart. And I mean, I own a house here in Minneapolis, and being on the road full-time doing sound is the only way. That's like the main way sound engineers can make a living is touring and living on the tour bus, right? And that, I mean, I could tour as a DJ and do way less touring and make more money. I can do that at home comfortably and, you know, get by. I'd rather do that than be on the road full-time as a touring engineer. Even though I miss it, I miss the nerd aspect of it because I love sound. But yeah, I don't know, toured all over the fucking world. So it was a great experience. And CSS, it's great humans.
That's my impression, just obviously from the music.
Well, Love Fox is a great lead person. She's so fun on stage. Yeah, and the Gossip are great people. Peaches and whomever she has on her crew at the moment, they're always fantastic. Like, Peaches is one of the sweetest women on the planet. I love her too. Well, I knew her before I was a sound engineer, actually, because of all the Pretty Horses.
Oh, really?
We opened for her at First Ave, like, long-ass time ago. And her and I actually kept in contact and were friends. And then when I showed up with JD to run sound for them as JD's touring with Peaches, like, I'd walk in the room and I'm like, JD, you know, I know Peaches. She's like, let's see if Peaches remembers you. I walk in and she fucking runs off the stage and grabs me, and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Of course she remembers you.
But yeah, she's great too. She's one of the most underrated artists on this planet, I think.
I love Peaches.
I think she's one of those artists that other people steal ideas from. Because while we were on tour with her, she had all these prototypes of like these lasers, and I don't remember how many beams there were. I'm just gonna guess and say 8 beams that came up, and they were lime green beams. And so they would play some of her songs. Like, her and 2 other musicians out of her band for that tour would play. Each one of them had this, like, laser harp, is essentially what it is. Kind of like a theremin, in theory. And the light would go up, and they put their hand in it. It would be a note. But you move down, tone goes lower, goes higher. And so they would just be like this, like... At the very end of the tour, what happens? Kesha's on some late night show, like pretending to play one of these, and I'm like, "Ooh, Peacha's gonna be pissed."
Pretending to play one of these.
Yeah, she was pretending. She wasn't playing. I fucking saw it, and I've played it. I was playing it at soundcheck.
You know
like,
how it was.
I know, I can tell she wasn't playing that fucking laser harp.
So we've referred to. You can swear. That's allowed.
Yeah, you'd have to bleep it out, otherwise I can. I don't know that I can't not fucking swear.
We've covered lots of different jobs that you've had, and something that I learned when I was doing the research is that you've even worked the door at First Avenue. So
I've cleaned up puke at First Avenue. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah, you start at the bottom when you work
exactly,
there.
Yeah. Where did that come in relation to working with Venus and deciding to and doing and working as an audio engineer, the decision to just get a job at First Avenue, how did that fit into the broader narrative?
I mean, that was one of my 4 jobs at the moment.
I have.
Yeah, I heard you say that, and I went, "Oh, I did that too for
one
a
of them
long
was
time."
door person.
Yep, bicycle to work. Fucking, I have 4
delivery
jobs.
person. That's one of my other ones.
I mean, it's funny because I was in a band that was selling out First Avenue when I applied for a job there.
At the same time, we have Venus.
And then Steve McClellan was running First Ave at the time. And I asked him, I want to fucking work here. And he's like, "No, you don't." It's like, "You play here." I'm like, "Yeah, I want to work here. I need a fucking job, Steve." I was leaving sex work. And I was like, it's time for me to move on from that. And that's where I was having 3 jobs and I needed another one. And he was like, "You don't want to work here." He's like, you have to fucking start, you clean up puke, you fucking run around, you do security. And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Do I look scared?"
Yeah, that's what I
choose. I don't give a fuck.
I know what it is. Yeah.
And he's like, "But you play here, you sell this place out, you don't want to work here." I'm like, "I do. I need a fucking job, Steve."
What's wrong with
And so he hired me. And I started at the bottom. The first night I worked there, my boss got 6 stitches in his head from a candle being smashed over his head on some dance night.
I believe it.
And then they're like, "Are you scared yet?" And I'm like, "No. Gee, you don't even know where I come from." "No, I'm not scared." "Whatever. Shit happens. Like, maybe you shouldn't have been in the middle of that fight." "I don't know. I mean, it sucks you got stitches in your head, but..." Yeah, and I worked my way up there, and I decided I want to work for Conrad. And I was like, "I want to work for you." And everyone's like, "You don't want to work for Conrad." I'm like, "I do. I'm not fucking..." Yeah, I do. I'm not scared. I want to learn that shit. Like, fuck all the other shit. They wanted me to bartend for a while, and I'm like, because I had worked my way up.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't actually want to bartend. I want to play with knobs and faders and microphones. No. And so I started working for Conrad. And I worked my fucking ass off, and I learned a lot about the business in a different aspect from behind the scenes on that end. So that time was very valuable, because, I fucking worked for a million huge, like, loaded in, loaded out, so many great bands that have played that stage and had experiences with them. And, I wouldn't trade that time for anything. So that's fun.
Wow, yeah.
Hard work and fun.
Yeah, they often go together.
That gave me a lot of stage managing skills. I could stage manage, like, anything. Stage manage Zombie Pub Crawl. That was a shit show. Total shit show. You're given no resources, no nothing. You're like, "Here you go.
Make this work somehow."
Sure did.
Yeah, absolutely. It
Sure
seems like
did.
an impossible task, but...
It sure was. Sure made it work.
Absolutely. So, wrapping up this journey down memory lane aspects of things, there were anniversaries of a few things recently, and you were you must have had fond enough memories to do like Facebook reposts. So like a couple of instances recently. 15 years ago, the madness of Bump was created. And that was at the Bedlam Theatre, 2009 was when that began, with Wes
Winship, Burlesque of North America.
And that's all that I know about Bump from that repost. What was Bump?
Bump was a crazy-ass, eclectic dance party where we had multiple rooms. We had a rooftop where you couldn't have amplified noise, so we had vinyl DJs on the rooftop they would plug into a boombox from their DJ mixer. So it had to be all vinyl up there. It was more like a hot pants style stuff, like the soul and funk. And
Yeah, totally.
then we had a big main room, which was Get Crifey and the Moon Goons. And then we had a small room, which would be Wes and I. Wes and I'd call that the adult room. It was like it was crazy in the big room, and like people that were just a tad bit older would hang out in our room. But Bump was a collective of the Get Crifey crew, the Moon Goons. So it was like plain old Bill, Jimmy Two Times, Jonathan Ackerman, Josh, Wes Winship, myself, Joe Belk. And we all created this crazy fucking party that would sell out every month. We had parties where it was sold out and the lines running around the block and kids were climbing the building to get in.
Wow, climbing the building to get in.
It was 18 plus. It's a little wild. And it was, all this shit happened all at the same time. And the music did not bleed over. Like, it was built for the space of Bedlam.
Wow.
And then it's Bedlam Theater, so they're having shows all the time. So in the main room, basically the sets would always change because whatever the show was at the time, the set would remain there. So you didn't know what you were walking into month to month. So it's like we had evolving visuals every month that we did not have to curate. We had to work with whatever visuals were there, which worked for our advantage.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I used to stand on the roof and just watch this shit, watch the line around the block, and I had many heart attacks watching this shit.
Kids climbing the walls. That was the madness that was Bump.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked.
Bump was insane. It was a one-of-a-kind party. I haven't seen anything since.
And that was a few years after the particular gig that we were talking about, Venus. At this point, are you an audio engineer as well?
Yeah, I would have been. I would have been a sound engineer at the time. So I remember, not when Bump was started, like during the period of Bump, because it happened for a few years.
Sounds like it was something that it would be worth keeping going.
Yeah, it happened for a few years.
Yeah.
Once a month was Bump. And it was fucking insane. But then when Bedlam Theater shut down, we kind of did Bump on the run. And we'd do like warehouse spaces and stuff. And we've been kicked out of everywhere.
Right.
And it's the kids. Like, yeah, we've been kicked out of some. There's one space, I guess, that they.
Conspicuous.
Yeah.
We're not very inconspicuous, rather.
There's one space over on 280, I guess. We did one party there, and I think that's one where the kids were climbing the wall. That whole night just gave me a fucking heart attack and a headache because like people were just being asinine.
Yeah.
And doing crazy shit, and I'm just like, oh my god, liability, you know, just thinking like that, like are people safe? Like I'm like,
you want people to be having a good time and not injuring themselves.
And apparently the owner of the building still rents out the space for people to have events or something, but I've heard from people that they've been asked if I'm involved. And if I'm involved, they can't have anything there. I don't even know this guy.
But you're associated with Bump. And
yeah. But I'm the only name that gets brought up. Like, I'm the most responsible one out of all of them. Like, yeah, right.
Around the time, I think, within a couple of days of you celebrating the madness of Bump, it was 8 years since a particular girl party show at MCAD with Bionic. And you remembered that show particularly fondly, and again the night before you'd been having the girl party practice in the basement with Manchita Lizzo and Sophia Eris in the basement, which of course would just be the general practice space. What was it about that particular show at MCAD with Girl Party and Bionic that you remember so fondly?
It was a Guerrilla Girls show. Art opening, and like you just look around, and like the way it was all set up, the people are like all over the place, like in weird stairwells.
Yeah, you're performing here, and then like the stairwells are going above where you are. It's pretty cool.
It was really cool. Just like it's not like everybody focused in a concentrated area. It's just like you look around, there's like people everywhere in weird spots just watching.
Absolutely.
So it was fun.
Yeah, very fun.
Yeah.
And seeing that footage of the rehearsal reminded me that I think in that article, 2020 article, you had just got your first studio and you were looking forward to using it as a place to show the ropes to new DJs. And then I also just saw recently you were in search of a new studio. Did you find a new studio? Still
Not yet.
If you're a viewer and you know the right place for Shannon to
Affordably.
affordably practice,
If any studio space wants to sponsor me so I can teach youth the craft, please hit me up.
for real, that would be
Because that's what it's for.
wouldn't it?
I have a million DJ children, and I also want to share the space with them. Like, my DJ children get to borrow my gear anytime they want. They come over to my house and grab my shit. Like right now, my stuff is like spread out amongst a bunch of them, and I'm like, well, I'm not using it right now. Hold on to it, and they're like, it's like one of them doesn't have a PA system. I'm like, you hold on to that till we need it. If I need it, you gotta bring it back to me, and then you can have it back after that. But like, it doesn't need to live at my house. It'd be great if it just lived at my studio, and my DJ children can just access it. So if you want to donate a studio space to me, please. There's a lot of young people that would benefit from it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, literally my gear is, I'm thinking about it in my head and taking inventory, and I'm like, it's so spread out amongst a bunch of people. Like, I want them to make a living and do their craft and change the game. Like, I don't want their money.
Right.
Like, yeah. So that would be great, because then they can access it, and I don't have to be home for them to access it, and it saves my home some space.
You're talking about this collection of artists that reminded me that there was a Y2K celebration of Siren's birthday, or coincided with Siren's birthday, and Siren was...
I met Siren. She was just like 19, 18. I was teaching a youth project at the Science Museum, and Siren was one of the youth, and I'm like, young person, you are not meant for a normal job. You are so talented, and like your energy is spot on. So Siren, hung out with me for a long time, and like went to gigs, and I brought her all the really big ones, and I'm like, you're gonna learn the business. She learned the business. She's kicking ass. She's a really good DJ. Holy shit.
Absolutely, another one of my favorites.
Yeah, Siren's so good. I'm like, I can't wait for you to surpass me. Now she's done it. I'm like, yeah, that's what it's about.
I always love seeing Siren at shows. Well, we could talk forever, I think.
Probably.
But I feel that we've taken quite a good whistle-stop tour of various things in Shannon's past. I'm excited for the present chapter. I suppose, again, coming back to that original question, where you had this sense at the end of last year that 2024 is the start of a new chapter in my life in a way I didn't see coming and have always wanted. Do you have anything to say to wrap up related to this chapter? We've got the 3 residencies again. We'll make sure at the close that...
I mean, one thing I've wanted my whole life was a naughty teenager. Skip all the other bullshit. Give me that naughty... I'm working with youth and all that. And, I have a wonderful, wonderful partner who happens to have a naughty teenager, preteen. So, and it's funny, because a bunch of my friends pointed that out to me, too. They were like, do you realize you've been asking for that your whole life? And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Here it is.
And she's a wonderful preteen that John Waters would be very proud of. And my partner's awesome, and yeah, we got a little family going on. I'm into it.
Yeah, me too. I have the same situation, and I don't think I'd particularly be excited about changing diapers and having a baby. Like being there for the baby would make it difficult to do my 4 jobs and have a TV show and so on. But
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking up after school programs and shit, and like looking for things for the kid to do, and like,
with
I'm
your
into
friend
it.
Sophia.
Yeah.
Speaking of whom, of course, the viewers, one last time, can catch Shannon and Sophia first Fridays at Zora Darling for Y2K, second Saturdays at Mortimer's for Pussy Control, and then Powerpuff Queer Dance Party with the dancers at Ice House every first Saturday. That's Shannon, just Shannon without Sophia. So I'll certainly see you at many of those in the future. And thank you so much for coming in today. And if you have anything that you particularly want to spotlight in the future, please come back. I'm sure we'll find all kinds of other things to talk about.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. This is Shannon BLOWTORCH. I'm Simon Calder. Thanks for tuning in for Back to the City. We'll be back next week. I'll be back next week, 10 p.m. on MCN6 for another Minneapolis music conversation.
When they feel they falling, hold them on my back even when I cry. A little pesticide will do the right. Pesticide of the mind. Over time, you will find you behind. Better come up on her. Shit, I'm about to move. Mama didn't raise no fool.